messing around with type in a more advanced way. So we've talked a lot about the type box, all right? And, writing, putting out your type, typing, changing the type, changing the font, changing the size, all right? Couple of things also. Let me just, whoa, I'm in a delay, which is awesome for a $5,000 computer. Okay. So I've got my lines of type. We talked about taking off hyphenations where InDesign will automatically hyphenate, and that's under your paragraph options. All right? I don't know why it does that, which is really strange. Nothing wants to work today, which is really weird. All right? So over here, some of the things we talked about yesterday in terms of working with typography. Right here is your leading, which will change your line space between lines. All right. Here is where you change your tracking. All right, spread the letters apart. Really, quite honestly, the rest of this you don't want to touch. All right. Here it allows you to basically fake italicize. All right. Here it's basically going to allow you to change the vertical scale of your type, which changes how tall it is. Again, you want to stay away from that. You want to keep it at 100%. This is the horizontal scale. Now, you can mess around with this a little bit. This is baseline shift, but that's more so when we're dealing with superscript. All right, and again, so turning tracking and your fake italicize. So really, when you're messing around with this, you're looking at your leading, you're looking at your tracking. All right, those are the two that you can really mess around with. That'll help you along the way here. Okay. So the other thing we can work with is just like we did in Illustrator. All right. You have the ability to sort of get more advanced with your type. And what I mean by that is, let's say I've got 2 words here, okay? And I want to work with them separately. So the first thing I'm going to do, and I know I told you the less text boxes the better. And I mean that when it comes to a body of copy. But when you're trying to get tricky with type, you really can't do it. Like if I took this one and I wanted to make this much smaller, all right? I'm going to have to hit a return. Whoop. All right? And then I'm going to have to move this one around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this out, all right, of its text box. Now, a couple of neat tricks with text boxes. See my giant text box compared to my small word? All right. If I double click at the bottom here, it snaps it right to the top of the box, to where the word is. Okay? It'll also do it in a corner as well. All right? Now, when I've got my text box the size of my text like that, just like in Illustrator, I can hold the Shift key, all right, and the Command key, and I can scale it. So you can work with type similar to how you work with type in Illustrator, which I find for headlines and sort of typography art within InDesign to be a lot easier than trying to work with paragraph type. All right. You could also go into Illustrator, create the type that you wanted to bring it in, but this is easier. So then I can take my next line, and let's just do it this way. And now I can work with this. It could be a different font, or I could spread it out. So we'll go here and go like 400, all right? Make it a little bit bigger, all right? And I'm starting to create something that's a little more visually appealing when it comes to typography. You can also outline type in InDesign, all right? You can highlight it, type, create outlines, all right? So that's another option. It's not necessarily needed because it's not like you're going to do what you do in Illustrator, which is then completely make it nuts, okay? But you have that option as well. So this could be your header of your rack card. And it's a lot more creative than just putting the text centered, all right? Another thing, you see the blue lines around the boxes that you always have? Or, if you will, these blue frames. If you don't like them, and I hate them when I'm working in InDesign, you can hide them. They don't print, obviously. But if you hold the, I think it's the Control, Command, and 4, or H, excuse me, you'll hide them. So Control, Command, 4. So on a PC, it's, I think it's Option, Control. So I can hide them. I work like this. I find it much easier. The blue lines are frustrating to me, okay? So you're able to do that. You're able to change those lines so you can work a little bit easier. Again, the blue lines don't print. Right? I think I showed it the other day, but I'll go over it again. You can go to View, Screen Mode, and you can see your preview. You can see your bleed. You can see your slug. You're really only worried about preview. Presentation mode is for me. Like the whole screen goes black except for what you see. Okay? So preview will snip it. Keep in mind, anything that you want to run to the edge of the paper, all right, which is the black line is the edge of the paper, you need to make sure that whatever goes there has to go to the bleed. Okay? Some things we want to stick away from when it comes to rack card design. Really, honestly, to be honest, any type of design like this, don't put a border on it. It's not Microsoft Word. Okay? It's not Google Docs. You are not a 48-year-old science teacher. Okay? We are not doing borders. You can find a much more creative way to do that. Okay? It just closes it in. It also limits you to what you can do because it starts to minimize your space. All right? So anything that has to go to the edge of the paper has to go to the bleed. Not everything has to go to the bleed. You might like some things not going to the bleed. Okay? That's going to be up to you. Any questions on that so far? Right. Another little trick I wanted to show you was compound paths. So I think I showed Sylvia this yesterday. So let's say I have a box, right? And I place one of my iPhone images in there. All right? And I right-click, and I'll go to my fitting options, and I'll just say fill frame proportionally. Okay? There's my photo. Let's say I copy this box, place another image in. All right? There's my next one. And let's say I copy the box. All right? And then I'm going to place this in here. Now, really the only time I want to have the show import option selected is when I have a PDF because I need to see the pages. If you'll notice, after that it's really annoying. So really all I want to do is uncheck this. Then I can just place my image in, and it'll just place it in. Okay? Not a great fit. Little puppy. Okay? So I've got 3 images. Cool. Great. Fine. Well, what if I want to place one image in 3 boxes but have it continuous? Right. And I'll show you what I mean. So what I'm simply going to do is create 3 more boxes. And I'm going to need my edges here so I can see them. All right. And I'm going to grab these boxes, and I'm going to go to Object, and I'm going to go to Path. And I'm going to say Compound Path. That's something we've used in Illustrator before. A compound path is going to group these boxes, but not just group them. It's going to tell Illustrator that that's all one space. So I'm going to click Make Compound Path. Now I'm going to go to, see how the lines instantly changed? Now I'm going to go to File Place. And I'm going to click on one of these images. This one's fortunate. And now I have a little bit different view of this. Okay? So this is something that could add a little bit of creativity to your piece. All right? You can also go in, double click, change your image. All right? You can release the compound path so that you can move the boxes. All right? You create this sort of windowed effect, which is kind of nice. Something different. Okay? Something different. You're not going to come up with anything that is original, to be quite honest with you. There's nothing left. All right? It's the combination of elements that make it yours. So you're all starting off at roughly the same point. You kind of come up with this basic design, pretty simple, not terrible, all right, but pretty simple. And what we're going to do is, as we've done, and as most of you have seen, those of you who showed me your stuff, I just continue to sort of say more creativity, more creativity, more creativity. All right? Push it, push it, push it. All right? One of the things you can do is in your pages setup, let's say I've got this rack card done, okay? Yay. And let's say I like it, and I'm like, all right, I like this. I think this is pretty good. It's not terrible. I'm working on it. It's going pretty well. And you want to try something that's like completely off book? What you can do in your pages is hold the Shift key and right-click both of these and say Duplicate Spreads. all right? And you'll get a duplicate document here and here. Now, because I'm facing pages, it's going to look a little weird. So I'm just going to change this up a little bit. Uncheck my facing pages, okay? So here's page 1, here's page 2, and then here's a duplicate page 1 and a duplicate page 2. That allows me to go to those 2 pages, mess around, and always have the other ones ready. As opposed to saving it, changing your originals and going, did I save it? Did I not save it? I don't remember. That way you just duplicate it, you don't have to worry about it. And if I don't like what I did, I can just delete the pages. Okay? Cool there? Shift key allows you to multiple select things if you don't know by now. I'm just going to delete my pages. Effects. It's the other thing I wanted to go over. So under object, you have all of these effects. A drop shadow, inner shadow, outer glow, bevel, satin, basic feather, directional feather. All of this stuff can sort of be applied. All right, just to give you an idea, let me go ahead and grab this bird image again. This down here is really hard to put type over, right? It's kind of busy. It's got a lot of grass. So I might want to mess around with something where I'm darkening the image without darkening the image. So I can take a black box. I can put it on top. Okay? I can go to an effect, and I can say directional feather or gradient. Let's go gradient feather. All right? And I can actually change how. That's not what I want to do. You. Right. You can change sort of how things work. So I can go ahead and adjust this. It's not going to do anything because for some reason the preview's not working. Hello. Anybody? Anybody today? Why not? Weird. All right. So that's not working right now, which is awesome. So the effect that would have is you could start with the dark and go to the light. All right. You could also go to your properties and you could change your opacity. Why is nothing working? Awesome. All right. So that's not working either. Cool. All right. So your effects options are all up here. All right. You also have under your window, all right, you have other elements. You have overlays. You can output. Stuff we'll get into a little bit. But you also have your effects window that you can pull up. And this is kind of nice. It's similar to the appearance panel in Illustrator. If I have any effects applied, I can go ahead and get rid of them. I can hide them. Or I can add more, obviously. All right. I use effects minimally in InDesign. I might fade something. I might blend something. That's about it. But they're there for you. Okay? When it comes to printing, because as you get moving on this, you're going to want to print. And let me just make this so it fits. Now I got to go back later and see why my InDesign isn't working at all. All right? My fitting. Boom. All right. So obviously you're going to go to File Print. I think that goes without saying. There's 2 machines you can print this to. You can print it to my printer, which is the HP. Some of you might have it as the Bell's Audio Laser. Then there's the Fiery. All right. So I'm just going to pick the Fiery for now. The thing to pay attention to is your preview window. Really, all you want to do with this particular thing is go to your setup. All right. Make sure it's centered. And then you want to go to your marks and your bleeds, and you just want to click on crop marks. Because when that prints out, that's going to be where you're actually going to be cutting it. So you can visually see where that's going to happen. Once you hit print, use document bleed settings will be checked automatically. Once you hit print, but I'm not going to do it because I don't want to waste it. Save your document, the print settings will be there. So then all you have to do is go to File, Print, hit print, and it'll print out. You're going to want to start printing this out because you're going to realize looking at the screen and printing it, 2 very different things. Yes, your fonts are going to be different. You're going to be like, oh, you know what? I can make the font smaller. All right? And that's going to be one of the key things is that looking at type and the idea behind type, to be honest with you, when it comes to these types of layouts, you want to have the font as small as you can get it where it's easily readable. Does that make sense? You don't want to have somebody just squint at it, but you don't want big font. Because if you have big font and a big giant body copy, that gives you less space to work with when it comes to images and artwork and stuff like that. So you might print that out and go, oh man, I can make this a point smaller. I can make it 9 point and it works. Some fonts look really big at 8-point. Okay? Whether you have a sans serif font or a serif font will make a difference. Remember that serif fonts are the ones that have little feet on the end of them. Right? And sans serif are the ones that are plain and square. If you look back at the wall, the word design and visual communication, that's sans serif, and like a word like space, that's a serif. Right? Or proximity is a serif, and print's a serif. So little feet. All right? So that's how you're going to print. So I just wanted to go over a couple of things. You guys can get to it.